The last words of a person really matters because they are often a glimpse into the person's life, and what people say in the last moment can be quite a reflection of their perspective of their approach to life. And that is true with the sayings of Jesus from the cross also. And that is the reason we are here to meditate on the last words of Jesus from the cross this Good Friday. And the first word that Jesus spoke from the cross is, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing," recorded in Luke chapter 23, verses 32 to 34. Now, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you is what Jesus taught his disciples and the people while he was doing his earthly ministry. And this teaching was fully demonstrated by Jesus in his life as he was hanging on the cross, when he said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." At this painful time of his life, Jesus is looking down from his cross after he was crucified between two criminals. He sees standing before him the soldiers who mocked him, cursed him, who tortured him, and who had just nailed him to the cross. He probably remembers those who have sentenced him to death, including the Roman governor Pontius Pilate, the high priest, the members of the Sanhedrin. Even after knowing that he is a righteous person, they all came together to plot against Jesus. He probably looks for his companions, the disciples, and found none except one, John. He looked at the bypassers who mocked at him, and the first word that he utters from the cross is to offer forgiveness to these people who have hurt him. Forgiveness is a very important aspect of spirituality, and we need to learn how to practice this forgiveness in our lives. We will look at 3 lessons from the life of Jesus that can help us to practice forgiveness in our lives. The first step towards making forgiveness easy is to make forgiveness our priority. Making forgiveness our priority is the first step. Now, because we see here, the very moment he is crucified on the cross, the first word that he speaks is offering forgiveness to the people. He did not reserve it to the end to see if it is possible, let me do it at the end. No, it was in the beginning. All through his life, we see Jesus offering forgiveness to the people. There are several examples in the New Testament. He forgives the paralytic in Capernaum. He forgives the sinful woman who anointed him in the home of Simon the Pharisee. He forgives the woman accused of adultery and who was about to be stoned to death. Even in that Lord's Prayer that he taught his disciples, he teaches about forgiveness. So right up to the final hours on earth, Jesus preaches forgiveness. Even while at the cross, his priority was to offer forgiveness to the people. Now, Jesus had all rights to condemn them, isn't it? Now, because he is the Son of God. He has the power to do that. No, but instead, he chose to forgive. Now, just imagine if he had not chose to forgive and if he had chose to condemn, the context would have been different. But he chose to forgive. No one demanded or requested Jesus' forgiveness. In fact, nobody expected it. Now, because it is very human, from a human point of view, now it is natural to expect words of anger, words of anguish from a person who is being ruthlessly killed for no fault of him. But Jesus, in the midst of such immense pain, voluntarily chose to forgive over revenge. Now, the Greek construction of this word, translated "he said," literally means he was saying, which suggests that he kept on saying, "Father, forgive them, Father, forgive them," all through the time he was there in the cross. Now, it is our normal tendency to forgive or to offer forgiveness when somebody asks for it. When we think that the person whom we forgive will be of some help for us in the future. It is at that point, usually, we come forward to offer forgiveness. But Jesus did not wait for them to ask. He volunteered it even before anybody thought about it. So making forgiveness our priority means offering unconditional forgiveness. offering forgiveness unconditional, unlimited times. Now we remember the narrative where Peter came and asked Jesus, how many times should I forgive my brother? 7 times, is it okay? Jesus said 70 times 7. Now 7 and 70 are used to symbolize something complete or perfection in the Bible. So that means what Jesus meant was our forgiveness needs to be complete. Our forgiveness needs to be unconditional. Our forgiveness needs to be unlimited. That is what Jesus is intending there. Forgiveness must be our priority because it is directly connected to our worship. In the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus taught in Matthew chapter 5, verse 23 and 24. He says, therefore, if you are offering your gift at the altar and there remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar. First, go and be reconciled to them, and then come and offer the gift. Even if somebody else has done something wrong against us, Jesus says it is we who needs to take the initiative. The process should begin from us, because without forgiveness, our worship is meaningless. The second step to forgiveness is to pray for our enemies. Now this word is in the form of a prayer. Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. Having his hands and legs nailed to the cross, the only thing he could do was to pray for his persecutors. Now, in fact, if his hands were free, I could imagine that he coming down and hugging the people and blessing them. That is what it is meaning by these words. His hands and legs are nailed, and only thing he could do is to pray for his persecutors. Now, in times of bitter pain, he prays for his enemies, those who betrayed him, mocked him, made fun of him, and crucified him. Sometimes forgiveness is easy, but other times the hurt is so deep that we need to wrestle in prayer to forgive others. And in such time, one easy way to offer forgiveness is to pray for those who persecute us, pray for those who have done wrong against us. That is what Jesus taught in Matthew chapter 5:44. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. And only those who experience this will know the power of healing in praying for our enemies. Have you ever prayed for our enemies? If so, when was the last time that we prayed for those who hurt us? Praying for our enemies makes forgiveness easy. And the third step is to remember that we are the recipients of God's forgiveness. So forgiveness should naturally flow from us. Now, to whom was Jesus referring to when he said, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing? Did he simply ask for forgiveness for the soldiers who just stood in front of him and did their duties obeying the Roman authorities? Or only to those who hurt him and who mocked at him and who criticized him? Can we limit Christ's forgiveness that narrowly? In fact, these words, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing, reaches out to you and me and to everyone in this world. It reaches to all of us living some 3,000 miles away from Golgotha and some 2,000 years after what happened there on the day of crucifixion. It is also relevant to us. In the words, Father, forgive them, we have been forgiven. We all have received God's forgiveness, isn't it? But the sad thing is, after receiving God's forgiveness free of cost, we fail to offer forgiveness to others when it is required from us. So the realization that we have been forgiven by God makes forgiveness easy. Today, as we meditate the first word from the cross, may the forgiveness of God infiltrate our entire body and usher in us a spirit of forgiveness. May God help us to make forgiveness our priority. Pray for those who hurt us, for our enemies, and remember the fact that we have been forgiven by God. Amen.